I'm excited about this episode of Beyond 28. You know, to just get to hang out with one of the NBA power couples, man. I'm just excited about these folks, and I don't know if they remember, but I first met Damon Lee and Sydel Lee well, I met Sydel. Let me go back when she was like a teenager.
I know it's been a while.
She's a Bay Area person now, man. She's been around here since like 2009. So I remember when she was like some high school volleyball star and all that. Right?
The golden
Hanging
days.
out with her mom and dad at the Warriors games when they were terrible before they won championships. But in 2017, I wonder if Damon remembers this. I was in Santa Cruz to do a story on Damon Jones, and I remember seeing this guard from Louisville who could shoot a little bit. And afterwards, we went to Damon invited me to go to dinner at some Japanese restaurant, and we all hung out, and I got to see like this great couple, man. The love this couple have for each other, and to see you guys grow together has been beautiful, man. So welcome, Sydel and Damon Lee, to Beyond 28.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you, Mark, for having us, man. This is definitely dope, man. It's dope.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just talking to some friends, man. Love you both.
Lived in the same place at one point, so
yeah, no, we'll get there.
Close.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Speaking of that, you know, Sydel, I'm gonna take you to January 17th, 2018. You remember that day? Do you remember why that day was important?
January 17th.
2018.
I feel like I should know. I got 5 concussions, so we'll probably talk about that at some point. So you can't hold me to my memory.
Yeah. Well, it was on that day that they actually lived in my old apartment in Jack London Square in Oakland. I used to bug Sydel for my mail. She's like, I got some more of your junk mail. So I used to go pick it up. But you had this revealing, beautiful, like touching, wow, video that's now people can see on YouTube. And I think this is a good place we should start, called My Mental Health Journey.
That's when I posted that?
Yeah, that's when you posted that. So for those not familiar, Damon's like, that was a while ago, right? For those not familiar, can you explain what you revealed in the video and God, your emotions and your strength at that time?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I think that was the very first time that I actually came out and spoke on a public platform about kind of how I got to that point in my mental health and talking about it openly. I spoke, it was probably like a 30-minute video, so I'm going to try to summarize it in just a couple of minutes. But I spoke about, you know, my journey in general and the things that I struggle with my mental health. And one of a couple of things that I touched on was I've had 5 concussions, like I just mentioned. So the ramifications and the side effects and symptoms that come with getting hit in the head 5 different times and having to deal with that. I think I spoke about a very toxic relationship that I was in, and from high school like to early on in the beginning of my college years, which took a toll on my mental health as far as really creating a lot of anxiety and bouts with depression as well. Excuse me, as well. And also just like touching on the pressures of being in a family that I'm in and always having to feel like just that pressure of having to be something and make something out of myself. I mean, I was raised by really great people who instilled a lot of morals in me and a drive to be my own person. But when you have the rest of the world looking at not only like you, but you know, people, my siblings and everyone that came before me, it can be a lot. And so kind of wanting to just let people know that they're not alone in their struggles. You don't have to have, I mean, everyone's mental health is impacted in different ways. You could have a great life. You could have, from the outside, you could have no worries. People can look at you and be like, oh my gosh, you are, you know, you have a great home, you have a great family, like you're stable in certain areas of your life that they can see from the outside. But in the inside, only you know what you're going through and only you know how you handle certain situations. And that's something that's valid. Like everyone's valid in their feelings, everyone's valid in whatever they go through and how different things affect them. And to get through that, you need to be able to accept that number one is valid. Like my saying is always, we have our own mountains. I have my mountains and I still have to climb over them. They may not be as tall or as small as someone else's, but I still have to go over them in my own way. And so in doing that video, it was kind of opening myself, like a really private part of myself, up to the world, just so that I can show up for other people that may not have someone in their lives that tells them that. Because mental health can be a very lonely and scary place to be. You don't really, sometimes it's hard to describe how you're feeling when you don't even know how you're feeling yourself. You don't know how to, you know, verbalize that to other people, to yourself. So how can you do that to other people? And so I wanted to just, I feel like my purpose, I feel like I'm going way too, I'm mentioning a lot of things that we're supposed to be
No,
talking
you
about in this
talk. You good.
podcast. But I feel like I never think that anything that I go through is for nothing. I don't think that I'm dealt the cards that I'm dealt just because. I think everything that happens in my life happens for a reason. My purpose, I believe, is to share that with others so that they don't feel so alone. I've met many of people who don't feel valid in their feelings because someone in their life doesn't tell them that's totally normal. Like I felt the same way. And odds are there is someone in their life that is feeling the same way, but they're not feeling comfortable. They're not feeling valid in their feelings either. So why would they talk about it? And so I feel like that's my purpose, is just to, the best way that I can, is to talk about my internal battles, my struggles, so that people don't feel like they're just out there hanging by themselves.
Damon, when's the first time you remember your wife having anxiety and mental health issues? And when you heard that she was going to put this video out, what was your was there any apprehension, any fear, or you like, yo, go for it?
Um, the first time she told me about the anxiety, I want to say it was within like not the first time that we like talked, but it was like the first time that we actually like talked about feelings. You know, she told me about the concussions, told me, you know, that she felt like, you know, she's a different person now, and obviously told me about her past. You know, told me that she felt like she's a different person now than she was, um, you know, years ago. So just understanding that, and then, you know, obviously being an athlete, having concussions myself, and seeing the changes that I've had over the course of them, you know, can definitely resonate in that. I feel like her anxiety, it's you know, it's what she goes through, and it's something that I have to still continue to this day, have to be more understanding and more aware that, like, I want to try to alleviate any pain, any stress, anything that she may be going through. But sometimes me trying to help alleviate that pain or that stress or that anxiety kind of makes her more anxious, or, you know, adds on to it. So it's kind of just taking a step back and just understanding, you know, that letting her know that I'm always going to be here for her no matter what. But, you know, whenever she's ready to talk about something or ready to come forth, knowing that she has a ear that's you know, willing to listen and willing to help. Because sometimes, and what I've noticed is, like, as especially as men, we always try to fix things, and like we don't have the answers. And with that, it's better just to be there, just listen, rather than trying to fix or trying to always have an answer and try to correct things. So it's that. But when she was willing to put out the video, I mean, of course, I'm fully supportive in anything that she does. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, like anything she posts, anything, like she never needs my approval for what she puts out. But no matter what she does, I know it's something that she loves, something that she's put great time into, and something that's going to reflect well on her. And all I can do is be supportive of that, of being her husband.
Yeah. So now you remember when you pressed send, and
Yeah.
also the reaction after.
Yeah, it took a long time. I had my friend of mine who helped me start my whole like career right now in general. Because of the anxiety, the fact that like I do what I do is a shock on a daily basis. Because I was very apprehensive about even just with Instagram, you know, it's like short clips, it's a picture, it's a photo, it's a little caption. Like I was very apprehensive about that in the first place. So that came first. And just like talking about little small things about my mental health. But a friend of mine, his name is Chan, he was like, you really need to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, I will never, ever, ever, like I'll do Twitter, I'll do Instagram, I'll do anything like that, but you will never catch me dead having a YouTube channel. And he's like, just do it, just do a little Q&A. Like that'll just be your first video, just do a Q&A. And I'm like, well, you have to edit it, you have to ask me the questions, you have to do this, you have to do that, and I'll just sit there and I'll answer the questions, but that's all I'm doing. And so then I think I might have done a couple, maybe 3 or 4 videos in between my very first one and the mental health one. And he kind of just told me like, when we started your whole content creating, and you told me that the only way that you'll do be a content creator, be a lifestyle blogger, is that if you put something behind it that you're passionate about. And I said, that's the only way I'll do it. It's the only way that I will fully dive into this career, is if I bring something that can help other people. And he was like, your story will help other people, and you need to tell it. Like, you can't just go half in on it and, you know, kind of protect yourself and be scared, this, that, and the other. And so I think it was one random day. And that's one thing when it comes to me and like my anxiety, like I have to do it in that moment. Because if I don't do it in that moment, I'll talk myself out of it and I'll procrastinate for months and months, years on end. So I sat down, he was still editing and stuff for me. So I just sat down and I talked, and I was like, you just take it. Like, here's the footage. I don't want to see it. Don't want to watch it. Don't want to hear myself talk. And then he edits it, gives it back to me. He's like, you just want to watch it just to make sure. I'm like, nope, I just have to do it now. And I just press send. And I don't even think I looked at the comments or the feedback for months after that. Just because it was so terrifying to me, because I'm always scared that people are going, it doesn't matter. Like, I can feel very valid in my feelings, but someone is always going to come back and be like, oh, what do you have to complain about? What do you like? I'll tell them, and they'll still like try to invalidate how I feel. And I'm very I was at this point and at that point, I was trying to be very just strict on not listening to what other people have to say. And so for me to protect my peace at that point, I had to not look at the comments. And then I believe maybe a month or 2 months and a half after I'd posted it, I saw it getting reposted. Like it just got a bunch of circulation on Instagram. Like I started getting tagged in other people's stories.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like minor freak out. But then I was like, you know what? It's getting tagged, like I'm getting tagged in people's stories, they're watching it. And I went back and I get emotional now just thinking about it. Like the feedback, it was, I mean, it's great getting like, thank you so much, Sydel. Like you did a really good job expressing your feelings. It's nice knowing about your story. Those are great. Those comments are great. But the comments that I get when they say, thank you, you helped me. I've been dealing with the same things, ... This makes me feel more comfortable in who I am, ... Like those ones hit different, because that's my main goal, is just to help people. It's not for me at all. If this was for me, I wouldn't do any of this. I mean, it has helped me though, which hearing other people's coping mechanisms and stuff like that, that's a really great way, which is why I feel like we should talk about this more and more, because we can help each other. But those comments where people were like, this helped me because ... they just hit different. So even though I was so nervous and like I still kind of freak out that I still have that out there a little bit, I mean, it's so rewarding. And again, it's part of my purpose.
Yeah. Damion, any reaction you got from anybody that, man, I watched that video your wife had and that stood out to you or meant something to you?
Yeah, some of like friends, or even just, I guess you could say like followers of people, have been extremely supportive of that video. and just of her and everything that she's continued to put out with her YouTube channel or Instagram, whatever, like polls or stories or anything that she does. Definitely get a lot of people that like hit me up or just text me, be like, yo, your wife's so funny, yo, blah, 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 this and that. So that's dope to me to see. And I don't really show her much of this stuff. I mean, I could, but I feel like her her page gets a lot more love than mine. So I just continue, to support her. And then of course, if it's, any friends or family, I'll tell her something that either they watched it or just knowing that they watched it is a joy for me, for her.
Yeah. Sydel, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but this perception that, oh man, she's a Curry kid. Her family got money. She ain't never been hungry. She always had a roof. She always had the newest, latest. What do you say to people that think that just because you were blessed with a amazing family, financially fine since birth, that you can't have these issues, that your life is perfect? Like, what is she talking about? What is this woman talking about? Like, well, how would you break that down to somebody with that perception?
Well, I'm a very independent person. It doesn't matter like what family you're born into. Um, each person has their own personality and their own individuality, and I'm a very individual person. When it comes to the whole like the finance comment cracks me up because I really feel like people think there's just a direct deposit that comes in my bank account every 2 weeks or once a month. And I'm like, I don't really, that's not how it works. Just because it's also like a crack at my parents and the way that they raised us. I mean, obviously, like if I
Hey,
really
can
was
I
that,
can I interject real quick?
yeah.
For y'all don't know, her parents don't play now. They not these is like hood parents that are well off now. Like her mom went through a lot of stuff, a lot of racism stuff, and I assume the dad the same. So however black families raise their kids that we're familiar with, trust me, these Curry kids got the same. Maybe I'm wrong, Sydel, but from what I heard.
No, you're right on the money. That is very accurate. I think Dave and I were just talking about it this past year. I was thinking like, wow, like my parents really did a good job with us because we never, we were very blessed in the fact that we never went hungry. Like we never had to question, where our next meal was coming from. But like if I wanted the same shoes that somebody at my school had, I get my mom like, Mom, can I get these shoes? She'd be like, no, what do you need shoes for? Like you're good. Like you don't need you don't need everything that everyone else has. Or I've worked since I was 16. I got my first job at 16. So like I've just always had that like sorry, there's a
Hold a second.
I know. So my parents, they have very much raised us like to go get it for ourselves and not to depend on anyone. They set us up in that way, which has been amazing. So I just don't, I laugh whenever people are like, why are you like, you don't have to worry about money, which when did money become the only issue that people had to worry about? Like, I get it that finance is a huge deal. Like we have to make money to live, and stability is such an important thing, but there's that, and then there's like 1,000 other things that humans go through on a day-to-day basis that we have to face every single day, especially like now with all the social injustice and all this stuff that's going on. Like that's a lot for, especially as a Black person. Like if you're not dealing with mental health issues right now with everything that's going on that you're seeing, good for you. Like you really have your mental health intact, because come hit up my DMs because I need to figure out what you're doing to like not be truly affected by this. So again, I kind of just say I share enough of my life for people to know like it's not just about what family I'm in or what my brothers do or my dad or mom do. And if you don't see that, then you're just not listening. And if you're not listening to someone who's very open about it, like how are you how are you helping those that are who are around you, you know, like those who may not be as vocal about their issues that they're going through as I am. When you're watching, you're hearing what I'm saying, you know, like imagine someone being in your family and they see how you're reacting off of what I'm saying, but they could be going through the same health things that I'm going through, and they see you just kind of making up excuses, you know, for how whatever I'm going through is invalid. And that's kind of just what I say. There's so many other things in life that we all have to worry about and deal with besides just finances. And I mean, I wish it was just finances, but you know.
Yeah. So Sydel, when did you first get help, and in what fashion, and what do you do since then to help?
Yeah, so I first got help when I was in college, and I got a push from she didn't a teammate of mine ended up actually quitting my volleyball team because she was having some really bad mental health issues. And when she quit was, I believe it's like right around the same time I was really going through it. I had gotten my third concussion at that point. I was still in and out of that really toxic relationship. And so seeing how she was vocal about her process, you know, doing things that would help her mental, so quitting the team. She said she was going to see one of the on-campus counselors. She kind of opened my eyes to that. So I went to a counselor on campus and just kind of talked to her about, you know, what I was going through. I talked to some of my doctors as well for like my concussion stuff to see what they had to say about that and what they suggested. And then from then on, I just rely heavily on therapists. I'm in and out of therapy. I've been in and out of therapy since 2015, 14, 15, something like that. And I say in and out because I don't really think it depends on the person. For me, I don't think therapy year round is something that I need. Eventually the goal is to not need therapy at some point and to be able to work, like be able to handle some things on your own. But we can sometimes fall back into those issues, into those, that depression and anxiety that we don't know how to get out of on our own. So then I'll just go back into therapy. So, and I understand that now therapy, or not now, but therapy is not always accessible to everyone, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that that's definitely something that I'm working to try to do my best to change, because it's been such a help for me. And it also allows me to not feel so guilty about unloading a lot of my trauma and triggers and issues, quote unquote, to my family and friends. Obviously, they're all there, they're open to hearing me say, but there's a bit of guilt that someone can feel for unloading a lot of stuff onto other people. So that's what my therapists are for, and I rely heavily on them.
Yeah. Damion, you can you we talked to Dr. Parham from the Players Association recently, and I wanted to see if you could explain to everyone, like, what does the Players Association and NBA teams offer in terms of for the players if they want to see a therapist, psychologist, or such?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you can go through the PA. You know, from that standpoint, obviously with Dr. Parham, but I believe every team has their own therapist that you can go to. Ours, I believe, is Dr. Turek, Dr. Sam Turek. I went to him. I mean, I've gone to him in the past as well. You know, just things that whether I've been dealing with, kind of like what Sydel said, like seeing therapy as a help is huge for you. And obviously, there's so many, you know, perceptions that come with being a professional athlete. You have everything, you know, at the tip of your hands. Whatever you want, you get paid X amount of dollars. You get, you know, travel, this amazing lifestyle, and you know, people pay to come see you play, and licensing and all that stuff. And like, I'm not gonna lie, the life is amazing, but it also comes at a cost. You know, one of my coaches said that, you know, we get paid, but we get paid for everything outside of what we do on the court. So, you know, you kind of take that into perspective. it's huge. I mean, whether it's, family asking for money, whether it's, not being able to see, you know, if you have a newborn, kids' first steps, not being able to see graduations, not be just everything's really contingent on the schedule. There's a lot that we go through, obviously. Two main advocates that have been speaking out, Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, put out those pieces last year or in the last couple of years just about, mental health and how serious it is, and uh, seeing how well received those have been, and seeing how many more guys have come out and spoken out about it has been huge. But I feel like a lot of that trauma starts at a younger age, especially in the Black community, whether it's growing up around drugs, violence, single parent homes, things like that. And then it's just a matter of how do we deal with it so that we at least try not to pass that trauma down to the next generation.
When do you go ahead.
Can I piggyback? And just
Oh yeah, please.
Piggyback off. I mean, I've been in this NBA world for 26 years. So a lot of these athletes too, not only a lot of what they deal with, including like injury, like if a player gets injured, that affects so much of their mental health. They're not able to, let it all out on the court and just kind of forget about what's happening at home. But a lot of these athletes too are they push to get to this position because they wanted to get a better life. They wanted to provide for themselves and their families. And like Damion was saying, that comes from a younger age, and they're carrying a lot on their shoulders, a lot of responsibility, a lot of expectations from being early kid prodigies. So they're hearing all these things that people are saying to them from such early ages that they're carrying with them for however long. And when they're not when they're not able to have a safe space to let that out, to talk about it, that can build up as well, and affect them in many ways that people don't understand.
Yeah. For both of you, do you think the way African Americans look at therapists is changing, or there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of building trust, or, like a Black man, I ain't doing that. That shows I'm a weak man, kind of, do you think it's changing with all of African Americans, or at least for the younger? Like, what do you think of the current state of African Americans and getting mental health help?
So you want to go?
You go ahead. You go first.
I was gonna say, I feel like it is changing in a sense, but I just feel like a lot of stuff is so it's just so like deep rooted in just how we were raised, where it's, oh, you good, okay, well, sleep it off or pray on it, or just like the reality is, like, we can pray and we can sleep it off as much as we want, but there's still gonna be problems there down the line that we're gonna have to fix, or things that we're gonna have to overcome, or at least things that we're gonna have to sort of go through. So it's a matter of, I feel like it is changing a little bit, but it's just tough because the stigma of, like you said, like an African American or family looking like, oh, like, you tough, right? Like, men don't cry, or they don't cry, or like, it's overcoming that, because I wasn't the biggest emotional, not say advocate of mental health. I've obviously wasn't aware of what it truly meant, but then since being with Sydel and understanding more like things that she's going through and seeing what other people are going through, it's more like it's all right to cry. Like, if I want to cry, I can cry. I'm still strong, but sometimes there's strength in crying and letting that pain out and letting that out. And just understanding that, there are people that go through, like Sydel was saying earlier, there's people that go through similar situations that we go through. Like, we always say, like, all right, if you see someone get in trouble, all right, you learn through their experiences so that you don't do that same mistake and you don't get in trouble. If there's someone that's going through healing, on the flip side of that, you can learn through what they've gone through or what they've done to help improve their healing, so that if you ever get in that position, then you can, kind of do something similar to that, or something that's in your own way so you can heal in your own right?
I think it's going off of what he's saying. I think it's also within the Black community, just the institutionalized trauma that has come with mental health and Black people. If you could take it back centuries, years from now,
1619.
years from now, like no
So
one cared about Black people, period. So why would Black people think that a profession that they weren't even recognized, along with many others, would care about their mental health now, right? We're fighting for racial justice at this point. You know, if we have to fight for a lot of people are probably thinking, if we're fighting for racial justice, why would we think to go to someone who doesn't even recognize us as human beings? And that's something that it's going to take a long time for Black people to feel comfortable. That's why a lot of the times pray about it, because other people don't care about you, but Jesus cares about you, God cares about you. So that's all that you really can look to at this point. And so I think with, you know, more Black people speaking up about, you know, when they're given the opportunity to be affected positively by the mental health community, then it will improve. But if you think about it, like when Kyrie was taking mental health days, people were kind of making fun of that, right? I don't know what he was doing, but it was kind of presented as a mental health time off. And then he came back and was like averaging 30 or something. So it's kind of like we're encouraging mental health, and we're encouraging therapy, and we're encouraging taking mental health days and all this kind of stuff. But when someone actually does it, then we're making fun of that. So at some point, I feel like as Black community, we need to start recognizing what a lot of the things that we say, which comes off as humor. Like, I think we as a community, we cope off of humor. Like, I make fun of myself a lot with my mental health, because sometimes that's the only thing that makes me feel good, is just to laugh about it. But there has to be a good balance between recognizing, like, supporting each other and supporting our decisions to better ourselves and our mental health, not just pick and choose when it's okay to do this, when it's okay to do that. And so again, it's like Damion said, deep rooted in a whole bunch of just bull. But the more people that speak out about it, the more we normalize it. That word is so cliche, but it's just, that's the only way to make it happen, is the more we normalize it, the more we talk about it, the more we put into action, the better that we will be as a community.
A couple more questions on this fascinating conversation with Sydel and Damion Lee, and I'm gonna let them move on, even though I could talk to them all day. So Sydel, what if I want help and I don't have the financial means to get help? Like, what would you suggest I do? What if I don't have insurance? What if I don't have, and there's probably some perceptions that all of this costs thousands and thousands of dollars. There's definitely something that's not cheap. What would you suggest?
Yeah, so there are multitude, that's pushing it. There's like 3 or 4 websites or organizations that I can think of that offer. It's not cheap, or it's not like free from what I know, but there are many of resources like BetterHelp. I'm like losing my channel. I actually posted a video on this on my YouTube. It's like, just look up like my a curry girl and then mental health resources, or how to find a therapist. And I put a lot of resources in there that talk about where to start when trying to find a therapist. And then if you're looking for someone that's a bit more affordable, I think there was one, BetterHelp, or another one I can't think of, that was like $30 membership, and you pay a $30 a month fee or something like that, which again, not cheap at all by any means, which is one thing that, again, I eventually want to work on, is to help just provide free mental health resources and therapists for people. But if you're not ready for that therapy, if you're not ready to talk to a therapist about it, I highly encourage you to find someone and that you trust, that you feel like you can trust, if you're able to, and just kind of talk to them, right? I feel like a lot of therapy is good because they can help probe and ask you questions to kind of, so that most of the time we can answer why we're feeling X way just by getting asked the right question. And then we can like, oh, that makes sense. Like, but just talking and venting to someone about things that you just are really holding tight to you can help a ton. So that's a good place to start, is just finding someone that you really feel like you can confide in. And if you're listening and you know someone who is going through something and you're just trying to be a support person, like, never underestimate a safe space for someone. Never underestimate the power of just non-judgment or no judgment zone, judgment-free zone, where someone can just come to you and confide in you and vent a little bit, and then that can also help them as well. And if they're not ready to talk to you, just continue to reiterate, like, hey, bro, I'm here for you. If you need anything, if you want to talk, like, I'm here. No pressure, none of that stuff. And that's a good place to start as well from both ends. But yeah, you can check out my YouTube video if you want more resources I have in that.
Shameless.
Check out that. Say it again. What page is it?
It's on a Curry Girl, and I think it's titled like How to Find a Therapist. I think that's what it is.
Dame, one of my last questions for you. When I played my piddly little college basketball career, I actually minored in psychology. And what I would do before games was I would sit back and I close my eyes and I think for about 5 minutes about me doing everything perfect. Even though I was a horrible free throw shooter, I'd make every free throw when I was thinking, or make every shot, block shots, rebounds. Is there anything that you do before or after a tough game to help you out from a mental standpoint?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just starting off in the morning, and I started last year, while we were in the midst of the pandemic, and just trying to get closer to God, and just trying to figure out whatever my purpose is, and just my understanding of what I can do to try to play my part in this world. I mean, I've been every single morning I wake up, go on the Bible app, read the verse of the day, give myself like 5-10 minutes to like sort of see how I could resonate that, in my life. It's crazy because it's been such a small thing and such a small gesture, but it's something that's actually helped me out. And if there's some, verses that really hit, I'm not afraid to post those on social media, and I posted on my story, and definitely have gotten a lot of like responses and feedback from people like, man, I've been feeling the same way. I need to, and just thanking me for whatever, spreading that word. But it's really just that, man. I mean, been reading the Bible app before games. Obviously, it's gonna sound a little weird, but like I always take a shower. Like before, I know Sydel was gonna laugh. I always take a shower before every single game. It doesn't matter, home, away, whatever time the game is. Like, I'll do my little pregame shooting, then I'll go shower. And that's basically me like washing away, whatever bad stuff, going into the game with a clean mind, clean slate. And I always tell myself, like, it's not about perfection. Like before every game, I pray, I do all this stuff. But like during the anthem, I always tell myself it's not about perfection. Because if you're trying to be perfect, then you're never going to be great. And all the greats know that they weren't perfect. Like you can hear all the slogans, you miss all these shots, you miss all these shots, but you're only as good as your last shot, or all these things. But it's just a constant journey of just continue to work. There's this book that I read called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And basically it talks about like the 10,000 hours, which basically is like 10,000 hours kind of equivalates to 10 years of, working on your craft and perfecting your craft and trying to be the best that you can be. Then you kind of just, season it on top afterwards. And basically it's, you know, I feel like my quote unquote 10,000 hours of my NBA journey started late. Started when I was like 26, 27, would have taken the game serious. And here we are, you know, I'm still, you know, borderline fringe guy, still trying to make a name for myself in this league. But, you know, 10 years ago, you couldn't have told me that I'd be here with all the injuries I've been through, the mental health journey, the physical journey, everything. But, you know, just trying to keep all those things in perspective as we go. But yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, man,
So
it's a
my
lot.
last deep question, and then as a couple, especially Damon, you're on the road all the time. Sydel, you get more and more things going on. So you got your own stuff going on too, which, you know, you got your business trips too. How do you guys support each other mentally when you're not in each other's presence? And what advice would you give couples?
Well, we started off long distance in the first place.
Hey, sorry guys, can just to jump in. Sorry, Mark, you completely broke up on the end of your question. Can you just ask that again, please?
Okay. I I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you both as a couple, like as people that are very busy, travel a lot, and probably spend a lot of time away from each other. Like, what advice from a mental health standpoint would you give to couples?
We started off long distance in the first place when we started dating, so being away from each other, we got a little spoiled during 2020, but being away from each other is kind of our usual, and we rely heavily on like FaceTime calls, and just being in the presence of each other, hearing each other's voice through FaceTime is super important to us. And just like checking in. I think I feel like as a world, we don't check in on each other very much, just like a hey, how you doing type of thing, and being honest about that. Instead of like, oh yeah, I'm good. So checking in and like really if there's anything going on, which I don't do a great job of that because I like internalize a lot of my things, and he's always like, no, like tell me what's going on. Like I'm like, oh, I'm okay. He's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's, you know, put how you're feeling into words, which I think he does a really good job at. So when we aren't together and he can't like sense my mood, I'm a very vibey person. Like you can pretty much tell how I'm feeling. Just like if I'm not talking, I just put off an energy. And so if we're not in the same room, he's very good at just being like, hey, tell me what's going on. Talk to me. None of this like, oh, I'm straight, like I'm fine. And that's super important as well, just so that we can stay on the same page.
And then also to piggyback off that and I'd say finding an interest or like mutual interest, like shared interest. I think that's one thing that we really did. You know, the pandemic, you know, the quarantine, all that stuff was obviously tough for all of us, but I think it helped bring us together because we were able to find mutual interests, like whether it was, you know, skincare. Obviously Sydel loves skincare. That's one of like her main things. Like how people could tell you what the weather is like, she can tell you what skincare is like. So she's pretty spot on with all that. So even just me finding an interest in that, you know, finding something that she loves to do, and then, you know, finding an interest in that. And, you know, sometimes we do, you know, little skincare stuff, whether it's masks or, you know,
Man, your skin
cleanser.
look good too, bro. Your skin look good too, man. You know what I'm saying? I've been using that Kiehl's myself, you know.
I've been using that Clarence, that velvet cleansing milk, you know.
Yeah, so you're on a different level, man. Your wife put you on a different level. But go ahead.
So it's that, and then just gaming. You see, I got the controller. Well, I don't know if y'all can see, but I got a controller right next to me. And during the pandemic, you know, we started playing, you know, video games together, whether it was, you know, Fortnite or, you know, Sonic or Crash Bandicoot or anything, or even Batman, just trying to play games so that she obviously took a liking in the things that I had extreme interest in. And then now it's dope where, you know, if we're on the road and we have sort of a group chat with two of our other friends, we'll just send in the group chat like, yo, who trying to play? Then all four of us get on and just play the game for like an hour or 2 hours. So it's just dope just to obviously want to know what your spouse is doing, but then it's another level to be interested in it. And then it's even better to take part in it. Because then it's really seamless. And, you know, it shows that you care, you know, about how they're feeling, because, you know, she could be down or be upset and I could feel sort of a vibe and I'll be like, yo, let's get on the game. And her mood could change just like that. So
Yeah. Notice y'all didn't
I'm
mention,
a gamer.
I didn't notice y'all didn't mention 2K.
not a,
No hoop,
you want
no
that,
hoop, right?
Archie?
We do that. We live in 2K. We don't need to play it.
Every day.
That'd be funny. See you, damn, you ain't making no shots for me.
Right?
Well, Damon, I'm gonna give you what lasting words would you want to leave with anybody that listens about mental health? Well, anything you definitely want to share or leave them with?
I think the last thing that I probably leave people with is just, you know, be yourself. I mean, obviously, you know, people take that and like, oh, be yourself and unapologetically and all that stuff, but just be yourself. Like try to, you know who you are, try to figure out who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, and you know, don't be afraid to show emotions or, you know, be upset or be happy and just be open with people. I feel like that's probably been the biggest blessing of, you know, being with Sydel, uh, obviously being married, but, you know, just understanding her and how open she is with, you know, how she feels, what makes her go, the ups, the downs. Like if she's feeling like she's not having a good day, she'll tell me. And, you know, just being understanding and being able to give her space. So, but then on the flip side, as a male and even, you know, a Black male, obviously all the things that we have to deal with in this world, but doing that, you know, trying to be open and don't be afraid to speak out about what you see or speak up about how you feel. It's like I'm a walking testimony of that. I've faced depression, getting injured the first time, getting injured the second time, feeling like there was no way I was going to be able to make my dream come true. I've seen people, I've seen therapists. Don't be afraid to do that. Cause I'm a walking testimony. I've been through, you know, my lows, and you know, I'm at one of my highest points in my life, and you know, I'm just thankful for God for that. Thankful for my wife for that.
Sydel, I'm sending you the rock for this last shot. Go ahead, take us home.
I would definitely say, especially like with how times are and just how busy the world is, definitely make yourself a priority. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so if you're someone that just feels like you're just going through it, make yourself a priority. Don't ignore it. It's super important because eventually if you ignore it, you will come right back around and have to face it again. If you're in a relationship and you're someone that's dealing with the mental health issues and you feel like you're being a burden to that relationship, don't. I feel like if you're in the right relationship, then your partner will be receptive of that. And just as long as the communication's there, then that's super important, just to be able to verbalize, you know, how you're feeling, and then you can work through that as well. And then don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Like whether it's to a therapist or a friend, family member, coworker, someone that you trust, like don't be afraid to vocalize how you're feeling, because you're not alone in any of your struggles. And we're seeing that more and more. I'm extremely proud of how our society has been doing. And I think we can be much better. There's so many more steps that we could take to be a better society and supporting one another. But just from the past 10 years or 5 years that I've been doing this, like it's just amazing how we have just been more open to mental health. And so there's someone in your corner always. So don't be afraid to speak up, make yourself a priority. It's going to be all right.
Well, for Beyond 28, I'd like to say thank you to you both for opening up your lives to the world and helping people understand the importance of mental health, and you're going to get some messages where people are going to say thank you, and there's going to be some people that won't say nothing to them, and you're still going to impact their lives. So you're just two beautiful people. Glad y'all power couple together. I'm glad you're giving the world these gifts, and I'm glad you blessed us with these bars today. Thank you to you both, and continued super success.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Hopefully I'll see y'all soon.
Definitely.
For sure.
All right.